one of the possible agenda topics that we could discuss is just around pay transparency, inequality that exists in the industry as well.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to talk about anything else as well.
No, I think it's an important topic, and I think that a lot of states are moving forward with it, like passing legislation, requiring companies to actually post pay ranges for their positions. And, like Cali, at least, we passed where, they're not allowed to ask what our former salaries were. So those are giant steps for pay equality, I think, and pay transparency. I don't have a list in front of me, but I know there's a list of probably like 5 or 6 states that have passed laws now requiring this.
Yeah, I was going to say that I believe in the state of Colorado, they actually list salary ranges, which is, in my opinion, pretty awesome, so that you're not wasting your time looking at jobs and then going through an interview process, and then it turns out that job is just not going to pay you what you want, or even try to meet you halfway. So that's the only state I know so far that's been pretty clear. And also, I think there's some backlash with some other companies because they just don't want to disclose their salary ranges.
Right,
which is unfortunate.
It shows how unequal that they've been for so long. So if they just start disclosing now, then they have to make up for all of that, right?
Yeah, it's weird because you think that's the most efficient thing to do, but yeah, some people just don't want that transparency, which is unfortunate and sad. Yeah, I don't know about the other states, so.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think Colorado probably has at least one of the bigger impacts right now, because it isn't necessarily limited to Colorado. From what I could remember reading, as long as the role could be done by somebody in Colorado, that this is a requirement, or if the company's employing somebody in the state of Colorado, they have to include it on all of their listings.
That's fantastic. I love that.
Yeah, I agree. That's one of the main reasons why I was like, well, Colorado's a great state.
Right. It's almost worth getting a PO box there, too, if you're not really willing to move.
Yeah. It's like, come on, states, get behind us, but who knows?
Right. Sometimes you have to game the system until it's equal or fair for everyone.
Right. I agree.
So as we're talking here, I found a document here about the states that have what they call pay rate notice requirements, and currently California, District of Columbia, and New York have actual laws on the books that say that the notice needs to be required at time of hire and time of pay rate changes. I don't know if that's the same thing because I'm not an HR kind of person. But to me, the concept of looking at a job board and looking at a position and saying, well, this is an engineer level 3. Let's just use that example. And this engineer level 3 makes between, there's a pay rate to this position, 100,000 to 115,000. Let's just say it. Okay. It would, when you go to the store, you look at a 6-pack of Coke and you were expecting to pay $3 or something like that. When you're looking at a job, you don't even know where to start. And what ends up happening with the pay inequality is I can come and say, okay, I want that engineer level 3 position. And they say, how much do you want for it? You say 50,000. Let's just say they had priced it at 75,000. You come in at 50,000. They're going to say, yeah, I'm going to hire you. You're going to save me $25,000 a year. So it's very unfair. And I've always thought that in interviews, the question of what are you looking for is kind of a game. I hate that game. You always kind of start with, well, you know, I would not take less than, or, I always ask them, what is your pay rate for this? And I try to throw it back at them, but it's something that we need to change in this industry.
Agreed, and it's a very difficult question to dance around. Even as a California resident, when people ask me, they're like, "Hey, what's your, expected salary range or whatever?" And I'm like, "Well, you're not legally allowed to ask me that question." So it's a lot of people don't understand it. HR is not fully in tune to it yet, and certainly not all the hiring managers. So.
Yeah, and I can tell you, and I'm going to use you as an excuse, as an example right now. Um, for everybody to know, my day job, I am a CISO in an organization, and I was working with Coleen to try to get her a job in my organization, and even when I was talking to her, I said, "Hey, Colleen, what do you want for this position?" I didn't mean it in a bad way. It's just been so ingrained in the situation that, she had to remind me and say, "Eric, I'm in California. You can't ask me that." And I said, "Oops, sorry." But a lot of managers don't know this. And even me working in the industry for 32 years, I, until recently, didn't know about these pay rate notice requirements laws that are out there.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I love the fact that, I can be the one to remind hiring managers, but unfortunately they're not all as open-minded as you are, to where I think that me bringing that up kind of, it almost shoots myself in the foot in the fact that they're like, "Oh, okay, yeah, right."
And please let everybody know that I actually did say, "Oops, sorry."
Yes, 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 no problem. Yeah.
So I think this is something that, number one, it needs to be brought up as an issue. It doesn't matter what level you are, if you're entry level, if you're senior level, or anything like that. That question of that pay transparency needs to be looked at. And there's some things that I've picked up over the years, which is not a science, but it's also something that, I kind of use whenever I'm changing jobs or looking at a position, is the government, the federal government, state government, have to publish their rates for different contracts and different contract vehicles. Um, and if there's anybody in the chat here who works, in government procurement and things of that nature, please let us know. But you can look up the schedules for those positions, and you get a kind of a range, if you will, of, if you're applying for a job that's with the state of Maryland or the state of Pennsylvania or something like that, you can go, or a federal government job, you can go and do a quick search for the pay schedules for, for those rates in there. And you can kind of gauge what they're going to pay in an hourly rate, and then you can kind of deconstruct that by saying, well, they're if a position pays $100, the company's going to want, 25% markup on you. So now you're at the $80 range. The taxes are going to be this much. So you're at the $75 range. So probably if I ask for more than $75 an hour, I'm going to price myself out of the opportunity. And that's kind of a quick and dirty way that I've used in the past to look at what the maximum I can ask for. Again, it's just something that I've done myself. But it's something that can help somebody that's looking at a new job, to kind of price themselves in the situation. Again, I'm not an expert there. That's just something that I've done personally. It works harder when you're talking about a private institution, but it kind of gets you at least in the ballpark.
Yeah, I agree. I normally try to give a range, but of course, like whenever you're being interviewed, sometimes your nerves are off the charts and it's so easy to, I mean, I don't know about everyone else, but it's so easy to kind of give yourself like the lower range because you kind of feel a little bit like you just want a job quickly, but at the same time it's like you have to consider other factors including your own potential. Um, but yeah, like it's always good, in my opinion, just to try to give a good range and a range that you feel that you could work yourself into, not just a range that you think you can do. But it hasn't been perfect. So I'm definitely not one of those people who has like the whole pay scale ironed out. Kind of wish someone from HR was here just to kind of help, but but yeah.
Well, when my time at the VA, I remember that the pay scales were all posted. Our salaries were public knowledge since we were federal employees. So, it seemed a little better to me that there was actually a system there. You knew what those positions, paid. So you didn't go down roads that weren't something that you were thinking, or, you didn't have sticker shock when you went for that kind of career versus, when you go into a career in the commercial field, there could be wild differences in pay between positions for the same job.
Yeah,
It
I definitely agree. A lot of well, from what I've seen, a lot of private companies, it really depends on the company. And for one position, they could charge you one type of salary versus the other, versus I think some government or city jobs even.
Yeah, and that leads to another point there about the inequality of that. So as these pay rates are not published, um, I saw a very interesting article that might be a little controversial, but this was an article. I need to find it and I'll post it on Twitter. But how um, the differences between women and men and how they negotiate rates and how it has become, and this was an article I read. This is not what I've seen or experienced, but how a lot of women will accept the rates that are given by the and most men will try to negotiate up. And I don't know where, I don't know why, but in my experience hiring, that rang true. And I've hired, in my career over, I'd say, well over 1,000 people. And, when I look back, I remember those discussions, and that seems to happen more often. So I don't know why it is, but it becomes an issue where I know as a manager, I've got a very talented woman on the team, and I know in the back of my head going, wait a second, why is she making 40,000 and this guy over here that's not, I'll say it like this, it's not worth it, is making 50, you know? And that's because of this pay transparency thing where you're just at the mercy of how good of a negotiator you are at the beginning, you know? Like Ria said, you're at, if you came in with nerves and you didn't negotiate at the beginning, you're kind of stuck. So,
Right, that's the beauty of the pay transparency is that, once you've been held back by that system, is that it forever holds you back, right? And
exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
me disclosing my pay that say I accepted when I was in a bad spot in my life for, $10,000 under what market should pay for it. But, that was my business. But going into my next job and I disclose that I accepted $10,000 under market rate, then they must automatically assume that I'm substandard.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Exactly my point. And and you can't do anything about that in the current model. One of the things that I tell a lot of people, and they say, what do you what do you think, like, when somebody comes to me and says, should I be job hopping? Okay. Or should I stay at a company for a long time? So again, what I'm going to say here is my own opinion and what I've done in my career. And I've been, if you look at my resume is 8 pages long because I've job hopped. Because you are in a company and you're doing a great job and you're in that company, you love that job, and come 1 year later and they give you your yearly bonus, and your yearly bonus may be 5%, 7, you know? Meanwhile, I can go get another job and get a 10, 20% raise, and my salary went up, considerably from being at that job. So, I worked for 20 years in DC as a consultant. And there all the contracts were 18 months, 24 months, 36 months. So I jumped. I moved from one company to another, and my salary, became better every job that I got. Meanwhile, if I would have stayed with that company, I would have only raised my salary by 10% every, 5 to 10% every year. So
Yeah, that's
I don't
generous.
know.
Usually it's like 3 to 5%, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I'll give you this. Because of COVID, the last percentage raise that a company gave me was 1.5 because of COVID, and it was tied to the revenue of the company. And I'm looking at it and going, holy geez, I can move to another company and make $40,000 overnight, or I can stay here and keep on doing what I'm doing and get a 2, 3, 4, 5%, So what is the right,
Well,
and again, for people, I say it's, what is right for you?
right. That's a pros con list, exactly, because there could be all kinds of stress that comes with that extra $40,000, right?
Yes, yes, it is.
Hopefully, I can speak a little bit on this and share my experience, and others can resonate. There is, I think that for me, there is an inequality that I've actually seen been corrected recently. So, generally, I guess people could classify me as a programmer, and then from there, security analyst, and then specify, further on down what my specialty is. But it wasn't until recently that my pay for a 1 year contract was more than the CEO of a publicly traded company, and I thought that was very, very interesting. And I thought this never happens, right? I'm a contractor. Why are you paying me more salary than the CEO? The next year, that CEO gets it's published that his salary is double his salary plus his bonus is 100% of his salary. And so they took the risk, and then they actually said it in their public announcements, by hiring me and paying me what they paid me. They took a risk that actually paid them. It more than doubled their stocks, on how I was able to help them. And it was all public knowledge that this happened, and so therefore they were, their decisions that they made warranted, them to increase their salaries and bonuses and whatnot, and they got new clients. It's generally not like that, though. This was the first time that I'd seen something like that, where a company was saying we really need to advance our technology, so we're going to take this risk, and it's a big risk to pay someone a really big amount in this sense. But what I'm used to seeing is, I'm a security engineer, and so I get paid, anywhere from 160 to right under 200, somewhere around there, a year for a contract, or a salary. And then the people that are my bosses, who don't know shit, are getting paid like 350, who they don't know a goddamn thing, right? And but yet they're still running these organizations, putting vulnerabilities and risks into the system, while we're here as an incident response teams, even and we're like correcting all the bullshit that they're doing, right? We're correcting and all the mistakes and taking falls for all their mistakes. That's the inequality that I see in InfoSec. It's more of an atrocity than anything. It's a crime against humanity, really. This is something that needs to be brought up and into the forefront. That not everyone has the experience that I just had. Not everyone gets the opportunity,
Yeah, that's pretty
that I just
unheard
had.
of.
Yeah, absolutely. And so this, I think that there's another side of inequality that needs to be brought forward, and we can't increase our pays until this bullshit stops. Until all these CTOs and CISOs and CSOs and any three-letter name that think they can know a goddamn thing, until they come off their high horse, things are not going to change, right? Just because you have an MBA doesn't mean you know how to code. Just because you have an MBA doesn't mean you've ever written a line of code, doesn't mean you know how to run InfoSec, doesn't mean you know anything about it. And this is what we really need to focus on, I think, when it comes to inequalities, because we are taking the back seat in pay so that someone with a fancy degree from a college like Wharton is running an InfoSec division. Thanks, I'm Jonathan.
Jonathan, you are absolutely correct. Okay. I'll give you my career progression. So, because you mentioned the CISOs and the CSOs and the three-letter agency, or sorry, three-letter people. So I don't have a degree. Okay. I was one of those people that left college in my third year. I have been an InfoSec person since 1989. And I was a hands-on keyboard kind of guy. And I grew up in my career, going from one position, learning a trade, if you will, of cybersecurity, visited, spent 10 years in the military, U.S. Army, and I honed my craft there. And when I came out, I spent 20 years working in federal contracts in DC. So I became a technical project manager, if you will, hands-on keyboard type guy, and continued on to become a CISO that had the skills and did not lose the skills. But I see some of the peers that I have right now that you're right. They come out, they do a degree, they go through all these, these fancy schools, and then go into the management track and are leading an organization and they don't know what a CVE is. As a matter of fact, I was talking to a CISO just 2 days ago, and I said, "Hey, this CWE is affecting one of our applications." And he told me, "Hey, you got it wrong. It's CVE." And I said, "No, it's CWE." Okay, go look it up. So even to the point where they don't even know the acronyms of our job, and they're leading a team doing that. So yes, I see that constantly. But just like in anywhere, we've got good people and we got bad people in there, that are leading these organizations. But you're right, the salary between somebody that has the experiences that you have versus a person that's leading something that's just doing something, call it programmatic, is night and day.
Absolutely. I think it's also horrible that in is still in our industry, as much as we don't want to believe it, that the piece of paper that you own uh, gives you those extra zeros on your paycheck,
Hmm.
and it's horrible, right? So I noticed a minute that I got a master's in computer science. Like, so here's the difference too. A master's in computer science is worth more than a master's in IT management. It's worth more than uh, a master's in management in general. But what's strange is if you have if you have the management experience from like really big companies, you have to have an MBA, not just a Master's of Science in
Yeah,
Information Technology.
yeah.
That's the difference, right? So the computer science degree is more valuable than the management degree unless you have an MBA. So strange, and we're not considering certifications as something that's valid and something for consideration in pay increase, which is really weird to me because certifications are a skilled trade right in front of your face.
So here's
Certific
here's something that you'd
Yeah,
like to you'd love to hear. Okay, I will put priority in hiring somebody that has Udemy certificates over some of the certifications out there. Okay,
that's awesome.
you
That's
know
awesome.
why? And you know why I say that for the rest of the audience? Because that means that that person had the ability to go and learn something on their own accord and on their own because they wanted to learn something and acquire skills.
Yes,
And a lot of people get these degrees, be it a bachelor, be it an associate, be it whatever degree, and they stop learning. One of the questions
100%.
one of the questions that I ask during interviews is I always ask this question. And just recently, one of the people in my foundation, we did an interview training for that particular person, and I asked this question. I said, "I will give you a widget, and I tell you you have to learn how to use this widget by tomorrow. How do you go about finding out how to use this widget? Be it a software, be it a hardware, be it something." And if they don't say two magic words, I will Google it or I will YouTube it, you've got the question wrong to me.
100%. Yeah, that's good. These are the conversations that we need to have. People need to know that you're, one of the advocates, for us. I did an interview with Parker's organization, and I mentioned specifically this, that people with certifications are if you want to maintain your certification, right, you have to do your continuing education credits, and if you don't pass those, well, then you've got to take your test all over again. But if just because you have a bachelor's in computer science from 1986, the year of my birth, doesn't mean you know a goddamn thing. And I can tell you this straight out, that right now in the court system, right? So I'm suing my former business partner, and Parker knows about this. Many of you know about this, right? This forensic expert. Right? I'm a doctoral student in computer science, which doesn't really mean anything, right? But if about to hear the scenario. So this guy with a bachelor's of science from 1986 in computer science is trying to find code on my company laptop that has been stolen, and says there's no code there. And so my argument is, would you ask an eighth grader to audit a college student's work to see if they can find anything that at all that seems weird or strange? And and it's just so silly to me, right? That this is what's happening. So it doesn't mean that you know anything, right? It doesn't mean that I even know anything. But if that's the way we're gonna put it, what? Why is this person actually auditing my work? You have no right to do that. So what I'm trying to say is that none of it makes sense, right? You don't have to have a bachelor's degree, right, to know anything. There's many people without a bachelor's degree that know so much more than I do, and I would ask them to, be an expert witness for me all day long. So there's this whole thing that I believe it's a generational issue too,
Yes.
right? A lot of and this is where it comes down to many of the hiring managers are used to a certain way that you have to have this bachelor's degree, you have to have this master's degree to be in this position. I would rather you not have a degree if I'm hiring you at all, right? And I don't want to give you a coding challenge. I can tell you this. You know if someone can write code, and you know if someone can do the job by speaking to them in a way that would trigger you in that sense. So when I speak, when people ask me to consult with them, they of course want to know if I can actually do the job. They the last thing that the last consulting interview I was in, they didn't even look. They didn't even look at my resume. They didn't care. I just had to have it on file. But by speaking with me, they were like, yeah, okay, you can do the job. And I think this is where we need to shift. This, to me, is the inequality happening, right? The pay, I mean, we're still suffering from our sins of our fathers in a sense.
What do you mean by that?
So yes, suffering from sins of our fathers, right? In the sense that we have to go to college in order to get a good job. These
Oh,
values in the United States, at least, right, are yes, exactly,
yeah,
right. So
yeah.
we have to do
Well,
straight and narrow,
right, and that's
no deviations, no
unfortunately
deviations.
that's the for people like me that didn't have I didn't graduate high school. Education's been my only way to stay out of poverty, right? Versus like trades that broke my back, like refrigeration. You can only do that for so long, and that's kind of why I went back to school.
Yeah, and I had to be straight up. I went back to school because of my own irrelevancy, insecurities.
Right,
I'm
and
over
that's a
here.
bummer.
Yeah, and I so am I taking and I guess suppose in the position that I'm in, I've put myself in is criticism for other things, not but never for my education now. See, that's the thing. So people will criticize me for anything else, but they'll never say that I'm not a computer scientist, and they'll never say that.
Right,
Maybe they say that and so that in itself is pretty messed up. Because before I got a computer science degree, I had a philosophy degree from a university just like everybody else, and I was a principal engineer for many companies, and but they didn't care about my computer science degree because I didn't have one, but now at least the argument is not, well, you don't have a computer science degree, so you need to shut up. That's not the argument anymore. It's clearly other things. Thanks,
Yeah,
Sunshine.
BS, MS, PhD, BS, more shit and piled higher and deeper. Um, that's what I always say.
Yeah,
Nice.
that's
I'm
what
gonna
I'm
remember
going.
that.
That's what I'm going after right now, just to make sure I have them all covered, so I can, just.
That needs to be a tweet, Eric.
Oh yeah. So, but to me, degrees are something that is I guess I'm new school but old school. So, I know the sense of the father, and I know there are companies out there that will not bend. You look at these big four companies, you know, like I said, I've got 32 years of InfoSec. I am a public speaker in InfoSec. You guys can all look up all the different positions I've had in my career, working with companies, and I've worked in probably about 50 different countries. But if I go and try to get a job at one of the Fortune 5, sorry, the big four consulting companies, I cannot get through HR because I don't have my bachelor's degree. Okay. Yet I consult with the CEOs of those companies. Okay. It is a broken system when it comes to that. Okay. I tell all the people that I mentor, okay, hone your skills. Okay. You do your certificates. I have a video on my YouTube channel where I talk about how to get and grow in information security. And I tell people there's various ways to get into this career field. One is the trades. Coming from one, networking trade, a DevSecOps trade, some, other areas of technology, and transitioning into cyber. Then the other one, which is the one that I love and hold dear to my life, is get those certifications, get those trainings, get those, do those, those boot camps, get that information, and be a true practitioner. And then, of course, you've got the traditional way, which is go and get your bachelor's of, cybersecurity now, but it used to be just computer science or computer science engineering. and then get the training. Because even, listen, I was working with with one university in the state of Florida, and I used to train and intern those kids that are coming with a cybersecurity degree, and they come out of these degrees and they really don't know anything. So, it's what happens after you get that piece of paper. So I just tell them, get that training, get those certificates, get that experience, get those internships. And once you get that, you are a recognized practitioner. So, all right, I'm going to shut up so that other people can talk.
Hi, thank you everybody that's come together listening or speaking today. This is Jenny, and thank you, Parker, for inviting me here today. Eric, I know we know each other very well, and Jonathan, thank you for being here and everything that you have to say. I myself am getting ready to go into my third year earning a BS in cybersecurity, and I'm doing a career change, and it has been a struggle. So I decided first to enter getting an associates and quickly changed, knowing that this is my passion. This is where I want to be. And yeah, it's a struggle for me. I'm in IT now, and I'm trying to transition to cybersecurity, and it's tough. I mean, I've gotten some certifications, but college isn't teaching me anything applicable to real world. Everything that I'm really having to learn besides foundation is outside of the classroom, and it is so frustrating for me. It, as you know, career change. I'm older. I'm in my 40s. I'm a single mother, uh, and you got everybody knows you're in front of a computer almost every waking hour. So yes, it's a struggle. I did interview for my first cybersecurity position this week. I haven't gotten word back. I went through 3 rounds, almost spent 3 hours through interviews. So hopefully that goes well. But yes, I'm contemplating leaving college just so I have more time to get more certifications, or just to even have those skills and say, yeah, I can do this and I can do that, and have more time to even code. And that's really where I want to be, instead of writing papers and doing labs. I'm doing labs repeatedly at this point of material I've already covered. So that's just from my experience, because I don't know if anybody in this room knows of current. In my college that I go to, I attend Champlain College, which is supposed to, from my knowledge, have a very good cybersecurity and digital forensics program. And I'm learning the same things over and over again. I already know at this point.
Yeah, unfortunately, I share the same sentiment. I, there's a few professors that have been impactful through my education, and I still communicate with them, but they too are frustrated with the system, and we're not teaching people how to be information security professionals. We're teaching them whatever the hell we want to teach them to get you through the class, and this is the truth of it. And if any of you cybersecurity professionals and hackers and people out there are listening to this, step up. Put out your courses, put out your videos, do something for the public, and teach them the things that you are scared to teach because you think you're not going to be able to keep your position. If you're good enough and if you believe in yourself enough, then put those videos out, put the documentation out, teach people these things, teach them how to do the things that you're doing, right? This is how you become indelible. If you want to leave a legacy, leave a mark, share your knowledge with everyone, right? And I understand people are scared to do this because they think that if I put out my secret into the world, then people are going to know. Yeah, it's tough, but we need to teach people things that you cannot be taught in college. The kind of content that I put out, and I hate to say the word content, right? The kind of knowledge that I'm sharing in these live videos. I'm not making videos and editing them and stuff. Nothing against it, right? That's do you. But for me, I'm going to show you live, and we need more people to share this so that you can specialize in a field. You need to specialize or teach the things that they're not teaching in college. I'm just so passionate about this. Sorry,
Yeah.
guys.
And you know what? And I'm going to tell you, Jonathan, you've got in this channel right here, in this group, in this space right here, you've got a bunch of content creators that are doing that right now. You guys can go to my channel. I do um, general security content. Caleb right here does security content. Alberto does security content. Digital Empress does security content. And if I haven't mentioned, and you, Jonathan, I've seen some of your stuff there. So, there are people out here that are putting their heart and soul in saying, go ahead and share it. We just had a show just about an hour ago with Marcus Carey, from Tribe of Hackers. And one of the things that he said is, we are all in this together. If somebody gets hacked, share the information, because we're all in it together. This is a family. And I tell everybody this as a family. One of the things that we're doing with our foundation, Raíces Cyber, is bringing education not only to the professionals, the entry level people, the high school and middle school people, bringing those people so that they understand and they learn the skills to be a professional before they get into college. Or when you are going to college and you're trying to figure out how to make your way in the world, it's not just technical skills, it's professional development. Is how do you act in an organization? How do you diversify? How do you communicate with your team? How do you not keep the information for yourself? Okay, share that stuff. We are all in it together. Sorry, I get passionate about this stuff.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I love that. I stand with you. I stand with you, Eric. Yeah.
Hey, hello guys. Hello Parker, Coleen, Ria, Eric, Jonathan, Caleb, Jennifer. Jennifer, go for it. I know it's hard to get your first position into InfoSec, but uh, try. You will. I mean, I can feel your passion for it, so you will be successful without any doubt. In my case, well, I am Alberto. I am from Uruguay. It's a very particular scenario where I live in. I am a computer engineer. That paper for me means nothing, uh, absolutely nothing more than a paper saying that Alberto Hill is a computer engineer. But in in this country, that paper allowed me to enter all the positions I have in the government were because I had that paper. Otherwise, uh, I wouldn't have been able to work in any company of the government of Uruguay, which is something completely stupid. I mean, the time I spent in college, I learned nothing about security, but I spent it. Okay, this is between only us, hacking the system of the university, but don't tell anyone. Uh, Practicing for educational purposes only, hypothetically. Uh, and then, I started working in 2004 in cybersecurity. My first position was in computer forensics in a criminal case about child pornography. Then I worked in auditory, and then I started working for an organization of the government as a information security and consultant. It was a 6 month contract that was renew year after year, and the organization was spending a lot of money on me on capacitation trainings. They probably spent like $30,000 getting me certified on the ISO EC 27000, ISO EC 20000. Uh, they spent a lot of money until they realized that, okay, this guy is not part of our staff, our permanent staff. Okay, then they did certain things and they put me as the director of the information technology office of the organization that was not existent, it was not created, but I was the director of that office. But before that, uh, what made a difference in my career was getting the PMP certification from the PMI. I mean, being a project management professional, that allowed me to lead projects implementing information security management systems based on the ISO 27000 in the government here in Uruguay. That was a great combination, security and project management. It also gave me the skills that Eric mentioned about dealing with people, knowing the organization, that you are not in an office in front of a computer watching blogs, and now you actually go and see how the organization works, the processes, the problem people have. So that was an open-minded experience thanks to that PMP certification. And well, here certifications as the CIS, for example, that are very valuable. Here, in terms of salary, they make absolutely no difference. I mean, why would somebody here spend $500, $600, $700 on getting the CIS certification if in their positions it won't make any difference? That's ridiculous. We are a very small market. We are 3 million people living here, very few companies, and that's the reality. Regarding what Jonathan was saying, I would add also, go ahead, and I grew a lot when I faced the fear of speaking in public. I started submitting to every Congress when they were calling for papers. Okay, if it was a topic that I know well, go for it. Send a proposal, and incredible. At that time, I was work in cybersecurity, and I was paying a lot of attention and was involved in cryptocurrencies and blockchain. It was 2016. Wow. When I started sending those proposals for congresses, they all were accepted. Like it was like a walk in the park. It was a great combination. Everybody wanted to have somebody speaking about security and that technology. It was amazing. Yeah, don't be afraid. Face that fear and share the knowledge. I mean, as Eric said, I mean, we're part of RISE. How do you say it, Jennifer? RISES, right? I'm just joking with her. She doesn't pronounce it well. Sorry.
Making fun of me again.
Say it. Raíces Cyber.
Are you calling on me? You guys picking on me?
No way.
Raíces.
If anyone doesn't know who Alberto is, it's just speaking. You should know. He's a legend, humble man. You need to know who he is. And
Jonathan, don't make his head any bigger than he is. I have to deal with him every day, man. Come on.
I mean, look. I gotta be honest. I mean, what he fights for is what I fight for. You know, the activism and the everything that he's done for the community this is what I fight for too. I mean, I get it, Eric. You know, your buddies, right? But and you're teasing. But for anyone that doesn't know, please. I encourage you to know his story, to know what's actually the reality that has happened in his life. This is real. What's happening in our world, and yeah, please spend the time, you know, looking and researching, and you know, listen to the Dark Knight Diary. Honestly, it's amazing. Thank you for everything that you do.
Well, no, thank you, Jonathan. Thank you very much. And well, all I have to say is that we fight for the same thing. We try to improve things that are wrong, that are unfair, that people should not live situations like the one I have to live. But I live that, and because of that, I have this. I know that I have to do something to change those things that are working absolutely wrong in the systems in the world. So we're fighting for the same thing, brother. And thank you for your kind words. I have nothing more to say, so I'm blushing. Thank you very much.
Nah, he's okay. He's okay.
Yeah, I think Oddjob had his hand up for a bit.
Yeah, no, I really like the hands up thing. It's been respected here better than on some Zoom calls I've been on, and I've been guilty of not respecting other people's hands up anyway. Thanks for accepting my request to speak. I was just listening to, a lot of conversations or a lot of talks about, how college really isn't preparing people appropriately. And I think that's been a big issue where colleges probably since the 70s, maybe 80s, maybe even further back than that, stopped being, or at least deprioritized education as how it used to be, which was giving you a diverse set of experience and knowledge in philosophy so that you understood what logic was, reasoning, how to, find, understand that correlation is not causation. A huge, huge concept a lot of people should know, especially if they're going into research fields or anything to do with data. Like there's so many little things that we're doing, but what are colleges focused on right now is, well, we're going to give you a cybersecurity degree, so we're going to focus most of your education on, all of these many times outdated things or things that are very foundational, but they're not very practical in the real world. And they're trying to be vocational schools in ways when really a trade school for cybersecurity or IT would probably be better suited because they'd be far more agile at teaching you the new stuff and what's coming out and what's really out there. And so I've kind of told a lot of people hiring and, if you really expect and need to expect somebody to be, a data analyst or someone, do you really need someone to know quantum theory really well in order to be, in cybersecurity? Are they actually going to be working in quantum computing, where they have to understand superpositional states of, virtual particles and things? Do they need to know that? Is that something that they need to know? Are they going to be in a research role where being from a research university that would actually matter? If not, then you probably don't need someone with a bachelor's degree. Like that's just not what colleges are getting you anymore. They're not giving you that depth of knowledge that you're really looking for, or at least very few are, and the ones that are very, very, very prohibitively expensive to go to. I'm looking at you, MIT.
Well, I think you hit
um,
the nail on the head. They're like hard ships to steer, and our industry changes so quickly that they're not agile enough. You said that perfectly.
yes. Yeah, exactly. And so, if you really need somebody to know that, and something else too is that you think about education 50, 60 years ago, what different types of courses in the general studies, liberal arts you were getting. You're getting that level of education in high school these days. And even back in the aughts, when I graduated high school, I received as good an education in high school as probably a lot of people in college, their bachelor's degree got back in the 50s and 60s. So, like, pretty dang good educations here for just bare minimum. We need you to understand, some different concepts out there. They still didn't teach us how to pay our taxes, but they did teach us several other things. I still think there's value in education from a degree standpoint, but
Agreed.
again, it's what are the actual skills you're expecting someone to pick up on. If you're not expecting philosophy to play heavily into your security program, if you're not expecting, some of these other basic skills in those areas, then then you need to focus on people who have, like you said, done Udemy, who go to CTFs, who have that thirst for knowledge, and they go and teach themselves or go to places and pay for courses that do teach them the stuff that's more up to date. So, yeah, but it is unfortunate that, yeah, you are probably going to have to go through the bachelor's degree. I have an associate's, and it's helped me get past HR. I'm now in a director position, and my CISO had to go to the lawyers and to HR to say, it's completely unnecessary for this role to have a bachelor's degree. There's nothing the bachelor's degree is giving this person or this role that stands out that they actually needed for this. And so luckily I had a CISO that did that. They respected his voice, and they were, he was able to essentially make that role available to me. But that conversation isn't easy in every single company that may have very traditional mindsets, because they don't understand what the education, what education's supposed to get you, and what you actually need for the role. That's mine. That's my little spiel there.
I love it. I agree, and I just want to share one thing. I don't know how much more time you guys want to spend on this, but having that degree, I was going to say that earlier. There's so many tertiary skills involved in getting a degree, and like psychology, and like you said, philosophy, or these other kinds of concepts that are a little deeper than what you're getting in high school, which I think are great. And maybe how to balance a checkbook and invest and survive in the world. Those things would be great too. But there's definitely something to that. And the reason I got into IT, because it's always been a hobby of mine since the 80s. So I thought, I'll just turn my hobby into a career, and I don't have a hobby anymore. But it was easy enough to do by doing that, and it seemed easy enough for me to get my degrees with certifications and stuff.
Since Parker has given us this platform, I do want to also voice another concern in this industry that we have, and is about resumes. I recently, I was contacted by a company, let's just call it that, and I'd not reached out to them at all. And they said, "Hey, are you interested in a contract?" That's what I do these days. Is I contract. It gives me a little bit of diversity around places. Learn different industries. And I sent them my resume. They called me and they said, I don't think I can pass this on to the next level. We know that you can probably do what you say that because they found me on Twitter. They for a specific kind of engineering that I do, which probably people know. And so there's only a few companies in the world, and I'm friends with one company. And so I'm sure you can guess, but they were so focused on my resume. I have a reading comprehension disorder. It takes me quite some time to write. My wife does look over things for me. But look, do you really need a resume if we can talk through it? And I even said, look, it's going to take me some time to modify the resume to how you want it. And for these specific things that you want me to list, because my words are turned 30 degrees, and it's going to take me like a week to get this to you. But if you need something urgently, I can do the job. It's very, very tough for me to understand why we put so much importance and emphasis on a piece of paper, whether it be our list out all the jobs that you've had and make it 1 page. And then they told me, make it 2 pages. They said, you have so much experience, you need to have 2 pages. 1 page isn't enough. I'm like, how goddamn long it takes me to write 1 page? It takes me like a week. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, what are we doing here? Do you have a critical issue that you need me to solve, or is this resume gonna stop? And clearly it literally stopped. So I'm sure they got someone else. But this is a real big, maybe people are not experiencing this and maybe a unique situation with me, but it is frustrating to me that this piece of paper, this resume, go check out my GitHub, and then why can't that just be your resume, right? Why can't your feeds with all your videos and the things that you put out and the lines of code that you put out, and why can your people not be your endorsements, right? The people that are commenting like, hey, I love this, is done great for me, I learned a lot. Why can that not be the endorsements these days? And this little piece of paper is stopping your company, because at this point, right, it's no sweat off my back, right? But it's stopped. Yeah. Right, exactly. And so I just barely started a LinkedIn, but yeah, I think this system is so backwards and old school. I know.
Jonathan, the sins of the father, the same
Sins
thing
of the
that you
father.
said
Yeah.
about the sins of the
Yeah.
father. So people do things the way they look. Today, I had a fight with a president of a America's leadership meeting, and I told him, I don't mind doing the job. I hate stupidity. Okay, just because you've always done it the way you've done it doesn't mean it's the right way. Okay, and I said that to him directly to his face. Okay. And that is what happens in a lot of these companies that have been established for a long time. It's the processes, the procedures, the this, the that. And all these processes and procedures have come because either historical reasons or because they've had issues in the past, and that's created a new process. Okay. I'll give you a perfect example. We interviewed a person about a month ago. That person got hired. Well, guess what? The person that came to work was not the same person that we interviewed. Somebody did a flip on us. So now we have a new process where everybody that gets interviewed by on a video, and we have to take pictures of the person on the video so we can confirm that that's a person that
Oh,
we hired.
wow. Wow.
Okay. But that's because something happened. So what's happening is either a new process has to be created because of something stupid like this, or because they're saying it's always been that we have a resume, or in international term, a CV. Okay. So you give me that paper and I'm going to gauge you and your ability to know these facts by that. And then on the other side of the house, which I rail about this, is with the advent of automated HR systems. If somebody writes a job description and says bachelor's degree, 3 years in this, 2 years in this, 3 years in this, 2 years in this, and they program that into the machine, I'll say it that way. And I know you're a coder, so you're going to kill me later, right? But if you program it in the machine and I put a resume in there and it's 90% what I want and it doesn't have the 10%, it kicks it off. So how the heck am I going to get through that first level to get into the system? Okay. I rail against this because I believe that some people have the ability to do the job, but may not have that skill because they hadn't had a chance to work on that. Guess what? If they are trainable, give them to me. I will train that skill. If they're 90% there, I will train that skill and I will make them the best analyst that there can be, or the best GRC person, or the best blue teamer, or the best red teamer. I don't care where you are. Give me a person that's willing to learn. I would rather have that than somebody who's been doing it for 10 years and doesn't want to learn.
Yeah, I agree. Indoctrination, right? Like you come in, knowing everything, and you're not willing to learn the culture and learn other things around you. Come in as that know-it-all, right? That's frustrating. This is the truth of all this. But see, I don't even want to say exception. There's just new rules, like new people, like Eric, like the way that you're hiring people is the way it should be, right? This is how it should be, but this is not I mean, even myself, right? Like I'm thankful, and appreciative that I get to choose my contracts, right, these days, but that wasn't always like that, right? But again, even to the sense that I didn't qualify for this position that they reached out to me for, actually, because they saw that I could do unlimited password attempts on a phone. I'm sure y'all can imagine who it is. Unlimited password attempts. And the other people, the Celebrite, are my friends, so there's only one other company out there that would contact me, and I'm the only person in the world that can do this, but I didn't qualify for the position because I have a reading comprehension disorder that I told them straight out. I said it on the phone. I have a reading and writing comprehension disorder, but I can do the job. And they're like, yeah, just let me know when you can fix your resume.
Okay, I'm
Yeah,
going to
thanks.
give you another one, Jonathan, for you. I hire people with autism spectrum disorders, and they have been some of the best employees I've ever had in my entire life. Okay? So people get scared when there's a disability of some sort, be it a reading disability, be it a neurodivergent disability. And when you give these people, and I mean in that when I say these people, I mean, in all best possible way. And I'm sorry that I said that way now.
No, it's no, no.
But
It's like recruiters. You're trying to say like technical recruiters. These people.
yeah, when you give these recruiters or the and you take this subgroup of people that have I sometimes don't even call it a disability. I call it an ability is what it is. um and you look at and you look at I have one guy that works with me, and I've brought him with me to 3 different companies as I've moved on, and I've got him hired because he is a machine. I put him to do something, and he's the best worker I've ever had because he thinks differently, because he's got that focus, because the hyperactivity works for this.
You said it right there differently, right? That's the difference. The diversity, the inclusion. It's people kind of fear what's different from them, what they don't understand, whether it's neurodiversity or whether it's sexual diversity or gender diversity or what have you.
100%.
And you know how I
100%.
feel, and you know how I feel about that. So
yes, and I know you're fighting it out there every day, and I appreciate that.
I'm fascinated by traditional hiring concepts. I think one of the things that kind of turned me onto this at one point was reading somebody who went through several job descriptions and would highlight sections that said, this is very female excluding language. There were even things that I would never think are sexist or very female exclusionary, because the type of experiences they are calling for in the job description are ones that males predominantly would only have those experiences. And in similar ways, what you just said there, when we say, must have very high reading or writing comprehension or this and that, in a way, not in just a way, but in many ways, that is right there, limiting, people who you probably really do want to apply for your job, from even just applying to the job, because like you said, you have a reading comprehension disability. But does that mean it's impossible for you to read something and understand it? No.
No.
I just marked a job description today. I just marked where everything was, he will do this, he will do that, he will do this.
Gosh,
and I'm like, what the sorry, Parker. I literally threw it at the person and said, rewrite this and change the pronouns. And they were like, what do you mean? And I'm like, everything's he. Do you want a guy in here? Oh,
wow.
Sorry.
I think one thing that you said earlier, Jonathan, was interesting. You were talking about GitHub, just showing GitHub. I've been talking to some undergraduates at Purdue and other places when they've come to me for mentoring. I've been telling them, I said, build a portfolio. Build a portfolio of projects you've been working on, whether it's school. If it was a school project, make it a part of a portfolio. Put it in GitHub. Put it in some kind of way you can collect it. Write it up a little bit. Write about what it was and things like that, and have that available. And I think we should really try to change the way hiring is done in a way, because like we've been saying, the resume just kind of doesn't really tell you. It just kind of feeds into the HR system and kind of gives you a Boolean yes or no to reach out to that person. It's about all it does. The portfolio is honestly where you're going to see someone's actual work. And whether it's, scripting or a description of like a project that happened. Sometimes you can't talk about some of the stuff you've worked on in the past and stuff like that, but you can still generalize and don't have to attribute it to a particular company. There's ways of getting around that, but I found that kind of interesting idea. I'd like to see that. I'd like to see hiring practices include a portfolio function or respect a portfolio function rather than just words on a page.
Agreed. And guys, I'm on a jet. I know we're over time here a little bit, but I'm on a jet. I appreciate everyone, all of this. So much good information this evening. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a way to turn off me as a speaker? I just want to go back to listening. I don't need to worry about speaking for a while. There's plenty more people who need to speak.
Actually, if you go to the three dots above, next to leave, you have the option to drop to speaker. You have already done it. Sorry.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, we'll go ahead and discuss those.
Well, regarding something that I don't know if what Jonathan or you, Eric, were mentioning, people, they say people don't quit companies, they quit their bosses. And you were mentioning some skills of certain CISOs out there. And in one case, there was a vulnerability that, well, thanks to sharing the knowledge, a person who was teaching ethical hacking in a college here in Uruguay contacted me directly because of the place I was working. They found using Shodan certain thing. A student found certain thing in Shodan, and he contacted me directly. And well, it was about certain system that had a problem. It was not a minor system. I mean, we are talking about um, uh, tanks and gas stations where you could hypothetically access via telnet to certain point without username and password, and you could basically do a lot of things with that. And I was so concerned. When I got that, I really got into panic. I was like, okay, I will reach my boss. She didn't answer the phone. She wasn't available. I tried to read above the general manager because the office where I was working was directly linked to the general management. Well, nobody, nobody was there. Okay, I worked all night creating a report on that, and then I gave a copy to my boss the day after that, and a week after that, my boss grabbed that thing that I wrote, and she asked me, "Hey Alberto, how do you do Telnet from Windows?" And I was like, "Okay, this is my boss. This is the CISO of the company, the largest company of Uruguay. Oh my God." That's all.
What's Telnet again?
Sir, you have to take my course in Udemy in order to go to Google. If you ask me that, you are fired. You have to go to Google and do that. Don't ask me. I mean, go to Google, Eric.
Please, sir, can you teach me to hack?
No, sir, I cannot teach you to hack. Go to Google and teach yourself. And you know what? that you said, okay, I will give you this problem. How you solve it? If you don't answer Google or YouTube, then okay, this is not for you. And many people came to a space that I'm hosting, and they asked me, okay, Tor is not working in my computer. Can you help me? Okay, I said, well, if I was you, what's the problem? I don't know, it doesn't work. Okay, I would go to Google if I was you, or I would go to YouTube and watch for videos. There are plenty of videos. Oh, okay. Have you tried that? No, I didn't thought about that. And then he sent me a direct message asking me for the URL of a video in YouTube. No, oh my God. There are so many things that we see. Okay, you have mentioned things like curiosity, passion. Those are things that basically we have all in common in this industry, and we can clearly see the people that do not have that, and it's so fucking so obvious already, and that makes a difference. We were talking about people with certain autism, attention deficit disorder. Yeah, we're different, and that makes a difference. That makes us do things that other people cannot do, and in having the possibility to be included in teams of security is something amazing. I mean, I want all those kind of people in my team.
All right, good. We got Caleb here raising his hands.
Hey, yeah. So you guys were talking earlier about, negotiating salary, and for newer employees that may not, have had quite the experiences negotiating, I guess maybe it's their first time negotiating salary with a company. What are some ways that they can, really identify their worth and not get kind of just bulldozed in those negotiations?
Hey, Parker, you want to take this one?
I can definitely give it my best shot. Um, so, excellent question, Caleb. I definitely think it's hard. People, especially those that are like entering or transitioning in, um, don't really have the best way to know what they're worth, which I think one way to really like tackle that problem is just to kind of encourage the discussion amongst peers within a company. That way, people can be more transparent. And so, if somebody reaches out um, to maybe somebody that's currently working in the job they're interested in, that gives them a little bit more knowledge to negotiate or have those discussions with uh, whoever's interviewing or hiring them. As well as the moves that a lot of states, I know we talked about earlier, states are making that move to show pay ranges for different positions. I think that helps. What do you guys think?
Well, I'm gonna give you guys a key that I would tell people to do. Okay, if you're an entry level person or from 1 to 3 years in the industry, I will tell you this: do your research online. Okay, go to sites like Glassdoor, go to sites like Monster, these HR sites. Look at they have calculators in there for how much is this position making in this particular state or in this particular country or this particular thing. Okay, that's a very easy thing to do first. Okay, and it gives you kind of a range of what people are asking for, because these HR platforms, the person that's doing the job request has to put a range that's not shown to you, but they have to put it in the back end. Okay. And a lot of people don't know that when you go to Career Builder or Monster or any of these, or Hot Jobs or anything like that. Is Hot Jobs still a thing? Okay. When you enter a job in these search in these job portals, you are required as the person that's looking to say, I'm going to pay between 30 and 40,000, okay, for this person. And why do they do that? Is so that when they match a profile that said that you put in that your expected salary is 30 to 40,000, that's how they match it. Okay? So they have the data behind the scenes. So when you do the calculator, it's going to show all the different jobs and give you that range for those particular states. So that's a good way of you to learn what, in general, the pay is supposed to be. Then what you do is you look at the job description that they're giving you and you try to say, does that work for me? Does 30 to 40,000 work for me? Does 40 to $50,000 work for me? If you're in the higher pay scale, then you need to put on your either resume or your portfolio or something like that and show them that you are on the top scale of that. Okay. And push yourself. the other part that I tell you is don't go just put your resume and say bye bye, see you later. You say you try to find out. You go to Twitter, you go to LinkedIn, you will find those companies that are hiring for, and you will see that a manager like me is putting on Twitter, or you're putting on LinkedIn, hey, I am looking for a security operations person. And you go ahead and make the connection. You go and say, look, I applied through Hot Jobs for this position. Are you the hiring manager, or can you send me to the hiring manager? I really like this position. To a hiring manager, that says, holy geez, this person really does want this job. Let me reach out to them. So there's a lot of different things that you can do to, number one, find the job kind of range of where you are, and number two, to get with that hiring manager. Because if I will say this, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And don't ever let anybody tell you otherwise.
For sure. If I get, I mean, I want to echo what you said about it, or it's about who you know, not what you know, because I'm experiencing that now. I don't want to go too much into details due to circumstances, but I mean, that's a real thing. That's 100% a real thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for that, Eric. I think that's a lot of great advice. Because it definitely is hard. It's hard for people new to the industry, people who have a few years of experience. Um, I definitely do see it getting better as a lot more resources do become available through places like Glassdoor, LinkedIn, the initiatives a lot of states are doing to put those um, ranges on the application or the job listings themselves. So the more people talk about it, the more it becomes more commonplace for those discussions to happen. I think we'll see more people become comfortable negotiating and knowing where to start in those conversations.
Certainly.
Parker, I do want to just kind of say that you should be commended for creating this space too. I mean, that takes a level of, effort, speaking or jumping out of your comfort zone to do that. I think that this is super important, and I just want to give you props on that.
Thanks, Caleb. That means a lot. It's definitely, I started a nonprofit to try and um, be a resource for people getting into the field. Um, and I thought doing spaces like this would definitely be a good way to also have conversations, um, panel discussions, to really address some of these more pressing matters in a more laid back, um, easy place rather than something like a formal just talk that you'd put online somewhere.
You didn't say this was laid back. I would have chilled a lot, man. Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, Eric, it is titled Hot Tub, so I mean, I kind of figured we were all pulling out like our inflatable hot tubs. And,
Yeah, baby.
I know that that's some imagery that everyone really wanted.
Not me. Well, Parker, I just wanted to thank you again for hosting this. Like everybody's saying, this was very good. We talked a lot about the pay transparency. There needs to be a lot of that. The inequality in the pay is very real, and like I said, for my entire career, I've seen that. So that's something that we really need to be working on. And you have your foundation that is helping mentor young people in the field. As you all know, there's, like I mentioned, there's a lot of content creators in this group. Caleb has a show for on YouTube. Security Studio Sec. Find that on YouTube. He does a lot of good videos. You guys can look at my profile. I have a YouTube channel as well. for information security, and also our foundation, Raíces Cyber, which is a Hispanic, Latinx, Latinas, and all the allies um, that we just formed to help people, educate them in the field, bring them up, have some that education that we were talking about. So that's also the links are in my profile, my Twitter. Go ahead and follow me there. Go ahead and follow me on Facebook and follow us on Raíces Cyber org on Twitter as well. And I put on Twitter the Digital Empress. She has a wonderful YouTube channel as well with a lot of information of getting in the field, of passing your certificates. Her how to pass your Sec Plus video is superb. So go check that out. And if I'm missing any of the content creators, please go ahead and post your YouTube channels to this thread right here. I want to thank you, Parker, for everything you do for the community. So thank you again. And thank you for having me as a speaker.
Yeah, thanks so much for everybody that spoke, everybody that came here to listen. I really appreciate it. Definitely hope to have more of these moving forward. Seem to be taking place about every other week. So we'll tackle more of the pressing issues in the community and see what kind of solutions or ideas everybody has to address them. So again, thanks so much everybody for being here. I know this one was a little bit longer than the first one we had last week, but I think we had some really good discussions.